Welcome to the Higher Self Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to help you unravel anything keeping you from a life of true abundance, joy, and happiness, which is your birthright. Each week, we'll bring in different guests specifically tailored to help you on your journey to discovering your higher self. Whether it's spirituality, business, finances, health, or relationships, there are no topics that are off limits. So get ready and enjoy this week's episode on the Higher Self. Welcome to the blah, 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 blah. Keep that, by the way. Keep that. Don't edit that. I like it raw. I like it real. Welcome to this week's episode of the Higher Self. I can already tell that I'm going to enjoy this conversation because of the title of his book, The Magic of Surrender and You Are the One. Kute Blackson. Kute, welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
And I got to tell you something. So I'm in the process of writing my book right now. And I had decided that my book would be called The One. And then when I saw this, I was like, I don't think it'll be called The One anymore. So yeah.
There's enough books with The One
There's enough books with The One in it, And, I'll tell you, this maybe will lead into, our discussion, but I'll tell you why I was thinking of that being the title of the book. My entire life, I was looking for the one, the one woman. And I was looking for a romantic partner, the woman of my dreams. And one day I had this moment where I was about to lead an ayahuasca ceremony that weekend. And the medicine was in my house. And I don't know if you're aware with ayahuasca at all, but when the medicine is in your home, it doesn't even have to be in you. It already starts to work. So I started to have this experience in where I laid down in my bed and I kind of asked God, I was like, okay, where is she? Where is the one? And then like my hands literally rose to the air. This is not me doing it. It's like my body, my hand rises to the sky, points at God, and then points. And I'm like, oh my God, it's me.
You are the one.
I am the one. So that's why I was like, man, I got to write a book about this. So talk to me about what a beautiful title, The Magic of Surrender. You talk to me about it.
First, I just, you're talking about books. This was not the book I thought I was going to write.
It wasn't.
This was not the book I wanted to write.
Okay.
After You Are the One came out, was a national bestseller. I was all excited and I'm like, yes. So my next book, I'm going to make it a really mega bestseller.
Yeah.
There's all these bestsellers out there.
Right.
I'm strategizing, reading Timothy Ferriss's, How to Make Your Book a Bestseller. And I had an entire whiteboard of strategy, marketing, ideas. I thought I was going to be clever. I thought I was going to be smart. And I had probably 100 ideas of different topics. I may do them someday. But when I looked at this entire whiteboard, as great as these ideas were, none of them felt authentic. None of them, if I was honest with you, none of them felt real. None of them felt aligned with my soul.
It was like a gimmick.
They were like books I thought publishers would want. Books I thought my audience would want. Books I thought my client avatar would want. Books I thought would sell. Books I thought would put me on the New York Times bestseller list.
Right.
But none of those I could look you in the eyes and say, this is what my soul is seeking to express. None of them.
Right.
The only word that felt true, that felt sincere, was the word surrender. And I thought, oh shit, I don't know if I want to write about this word surrender because there's so many, misconceptions about surrender, and we kind of know we should do it and we resist it.
Well, also, that would mean that I would have to surrender.
That's a whole nother thing.
That's another right?
That's a whole other thing. So I'm like, shit, I don't know. Just like going to the dentist. I know I need to, and so I looked at the word on my whiteboard for about 20 minutes and I thought, oh shit. And the energy was so strong. The energy was so palpable. It just pulled me. It was beyond me. And I knew in that moment that this was the book that was seeking to be written. So I had to go through my own process of just acknowledging and surrendering to that. And it just felt like the book chose me. And everything about my life started making sense. And so I saw that the seed for this book was planted maybe, let's say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 2016. My mother was diagnosed with stomach cancer. And that was really tough because she was the love of my life. I mean, me and my mother, we were I mean, she gave me so much love for lifetimes, you know, so I really loved her. And it was really hard. So I'm in Los Angeles, and I fly back and forth from LA to London literally every month to be with my mother. And I'm, you know, upset, and I'm sad, and I'm heartbroken. But I'm coming to a place of really accepting that my mother may die.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, you know. And what started off as the worst year of my life actually ended up being the best year of my life, because I got to be with her in chemo sessions. I got to be with her and just hold her hand and spend time with her and nurture her and connect with her. And just every moment became just precious. And so about 7 months into the process, the doctors finally say to us, there's nothing we can do. Like, this is it. You could die any day, so get your affairs in order. In a nice way, they just tell you, you know. And I'm feeling the grief of this moment. And I look, my mother's Japanese, a little Japanese woman, right? I look her in the eyes and I say, this is in the hospital. Are you afraid? And my mother says, she looks me in the eyes, Danny, she says, I'm not afraid, because I know I'm not this body. This body is just a temporary vehicle for my soul.
That's right.
And when this body dies, because this body will die, I will be with you, guiding you from the other side. And
wow, your mom was powerful.
My mom was like, I realized in that moment that she is a little enlightened little being.
Yeah.
For that moment, she was just my mom. I thought it was my dad was the enlightened one, but I realized the power. No TV, no social media, no snippet, just me and her in a hospital. This woman is facing her death. And then I asked her, I wanted to be a good son. So I asked her, Mom, what can I do for you, you know, to like make your final days easier? Like, can I take you somewhere? Can I buy you something? What can I do? Like, what do you want?
Just be with me.
She says to me, she looks around and she says, all I want is what God wants for my life. Simple statement. All I want is what God wants for my life. And I saw in that moment that she was in peace. Yeah. You know, this entire year, she didn't cry. She didn't curse. She didn't feel like a victim. She didn't complain. She wasn't attached to living. She wasn't attached to dying. She was just open to the highest unfolding of life and the intelligence of God in her life and her soul's journey. She was truly surrendered. And that's when I saw the power of surrender, because it's easy to surrender when we get what we want. It's easy to surrender when we get the girl, the guy, the house, the car. But in the moments when it seems like all hell is breaking loose and everything is falling apart, can you surrender even then? And so that was when the seed was planted. I mean, we can talk more about surrender, but that was the initial moment, I think, when I didn't even know that the book was being written, right, and my mother was giving me a gift.
Yeah. I can resonate so much with you. My mother also passed away from cancer. I, however, cannot say my mother was the love of my life. We had a much different relationship. My mother's mother passed away when she was only 13 days old. And so as such, she didn't really know how to express love. Even though she loved me. But your story is resonating so deeply with me because, you know, now from the perspective that I have about life, I could see how beautiful it must have been for you growing up as a boy to have a mother like that. And I mean, that is an awakened, conscious mother that is tapped into the universal source of life, of love. She understood existence. She understood that we are all infinite beings and that we don't die. And I got to be honest with you, I feel that in you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel that, like, I don't know. I feel like a smile in you. You could probably sit and have a beer. You could shoot the shit. You're comfortable with you because your mom showed you love. How, you know, for those of us that are out there listening right now who may have had, you know, maybe somewhat fragmented relationships with our mother, you know, share with us, what did that feel like to have a mom like that?
You know, look, my mother was not a perfect human.
Of course.
You know, just to be fair and paint the whole picture. My mother, you know, she grew up with a lot of emotional instabilities. Mm-hmm. She had her emotional challenges psychologically, chemically, you know. I don't say mental imbalances, but some mental genuine imbalances that were real. And so I grew up with a sense of, as a young boy, never knowing like how her mood was going to be. And she never lashed out at me, but it was just, she would cry and then she'd be up and down and then she'd be fine and then fine for years. And then, and so there was always a feeling of being responsible for my mother, being responsible for a woman's feelings and emotions and wanting to be her caretaker and being like the one that was in charge of her life. So that sense was not easy, but I always knew, and this was the gift, I always knew she loved me.
Yeah.
That was no matter her human imperfections, there was always an unquestionable knowing that I was loved unconditionally by this woman. No matter what I did, I could have probably killed someone. I could have, done drugs, whatever. She loved me no matter what. When I renounced everything in London and came to the US and my father didn't speak to me for 2 years, a whole nother story. But my resting place was knowing I was unconditionally loved. And that was the greatest gift she gave me, even in her, human imperfections. And so I can say, I know what love is.
Yeah.
I know what love feels like. And I think that gave me a level of sanity in my own psychology where I could just rest, where I could rest. Yeah.
It's interesting because, I am now, in my 45th year, barely discovering what love is.
Wow. That's a gift.
It is a gift.
It's a gift.
Because some never, I know this to be true. Some never do. Some in this lifetime never do, but I am now discovering what love is. And for me, the process was first just unraveling all of the parts of me that wouldn't accept love. And then the second thing was, quite honestly, unraveling all of the stories of what I thought love was, And then when you finally get to love, you realize that it is like nothing and everything. And it is just, it's immovable, it's peaceful, it's joy, it's sadness, it's polarity. It's like all of these things in one, but more than anything, it's like a knowing. It's like a knowing, And I want to ask you, because we have quite a few mothers that watch our podcast. Maybe there's a mother out there right now and she's struggling, and maybe she doesn't feel like she is capable of giving love to her children. And maybe she's hearing you and saying like, oh my God, I wish I can give that to my kids. What would you say to that mother? What would you say to that mother about love, about receiving love from a mother, and about, how they could tap into the power to show that love to their child?
Look, I'm not a mother. And so I will never fully understand what it is to be a mother.
What did it feel like to be be receiving?
But what I will say is, I think mothers are the heroes of the world.
Yeah, man.
I think mothers are the true heroes of the world. And first, I just want to say in our culture, we kind of worship hyper-productivity and certain masculine values and doing and doing and doing. But the truth is the value that mothers bring in the tangible, in the intangible, invisible, energetic, vibrational space of feeling that mothers just innately are and provide is priceless. Mothers are the ones, you are the ones that literally birth existence.
That's right.
Mothers, you are the ones that are every human being's first home. We would not exist without you. So your value is freaking infinite. And I just would want you as women and mothers to know the real value that is beyond trillions and it's beyond money. It's beyond anything. And so just to know and value your own value, because I think so many mothers, get caught up in what they see in the world and the conditioning of the world and value how it's related to, money and profits and just don't value what they are.
Themselves. Their truth.
Oh, I'm just a mother. You're just a mother.
That's the freaking
everything.
Thing. That is the thing.
You are everything.
That is the thing. That's right.
You are birthing and creating universes and generations and just I hope from my heart you value as women, mothers, you value who you are.
That's right.
Doesn't matter if you work, doesn't matter if you bring $1 or not, doesn't matter, like you are everything. And without mothers, we have freaking nothing. To me, it's more valuable. It's more than just, going to work and making money. Like, you are birthing universes and guiding the evolution of a soul, a soul that will go out into the world and continue their spiritual evolutionary path, maybe through lifetimes. Like, feel the pricelessness of what you are as mother, And so I think starting there, like really valuing, like, wow, I'm a mother. And that is so valuable, and honoring yourself as that and understanding the intangible value. Because I think when you start there, then you're able to bring, a love for yourself and that love to your child, feeling good about who you are and creating that space for this being that is a manifestation of God, you know? Right. And so I think just starting there. But what I will also say, I think, is, realize that soul has chosen you, regardless of how you think you are and how you think you're not and all the work you think and imperfections. That child, that being, that consciousness has chosen you as a mother, because there's some karmic contract, soul contract, destiny contract, there's some soul agreement. And so regardless of if you think you're doing enough or not, or you're perfect for that soul.
Before you said that word, that's the word that came to me. You are perfect.
You are the one, right?
You are the one.
You are perfect for that soul. And even in your imperfections, you're the perfect teacher for that soul's evolution. You're going to, dare I say, screw that kid up in the perfect way that they need to be screwed up for their soul's lesson.
To find themselves.
So trust that.
Yes.
And I think if as mothers, you just make peace with doing the best that you can. And I think it's less about doingness and it's more about just beingness. That's right. And just lovingness. That's right, they'll even if you're the perfect mother, they're gonna have issues.
That's
even
right.
if you're the perfect parent, they're gonna be in therapy going, they were too perfect, you know. And so and the other thing, I think the greatest gift you can give your kid as this being is your own evolution. The commitment to your own growth and evolution. So I think true love. Part of love is, for me, a commitment to serving someone's soul's evolution, not just their personality or their ego. So I think one of the ways we can do that is if we grow and evolve ourselves.
That's right.
And I think as we grow and evolve ourselves as fathers, as mothers, then we provide a clearer space, a clearer spaciousness in consciousness for like a soil for children to grow inside of. And so I think if you want to help your children, love your children, heal yourself, do the mental, emotional, psychological, therapeutic, developmental work to clear the blocks from childhood that you've been carrying so that you don't project that onto your kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that takes courage. But mothers, you're the freaking heroes. And I wish, and I hope, in our culture, we move to the point where we realize and we honor mothers in their rightful place, as the creators of life and the creators of culture.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely. I love your passion about it, and I love the truth that you just spoke.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, like, we could end the show right there. We could end the whole show right there, because it's so true. It's the culture, and I would say in many ways, there's like this underlying energy of darkness that just doesn't want us to connect to and realize who we really are, because there's no profit there. There's no profit.
Speaking truth, bro.
The most profitable business on earth is the unconscious human being, because the unconscious human being is not connected to their heart, is not connected to themselves, is not connected to love. And when you're not connected to love, then by definition, you are connected to something outside of love, which is potentially fear. And we live in a society nowadays where human beings are so afraid of being themselves that they have to alter themselves and change themselves and find external reasoning for validation and acceptance. And there's a lot of money in that. There's a lot of money in you thinking and feeling that you need to change the way you look. There's a lot of money in you thinking and feeling that you're more valuable because you have a certain purse, or because the shoes, the bottom of your shoes are red. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money in you thinking and feeling that you're afraid and that you need some sort of protection outside of you to heal your body, where with proper nutrients and love, you can heal yourself. And so the most powerful and the most unstoppable business on earth is the unconscious human being. And then you get to decide, do I want to participate in that business or not? You know what I'm saying? And when you have the strength and the courage to ask yourself that question, get ready, because that's when life begins. That's when life begins, right? And I want to ask you this because we didn't have a chance to talk, but you strike me as a very conscious man, a very conscious human being. Just by the words that you're using, I can tell that you understand. And by your reaction to what I say, I can tell that you know. Where did that knowing come from? How did your journey begin?
Wow, brother. I'll give you the condensed version because we could be here for like 7 podcast episodes. Look, I was born in Ghana, West Africa. My father's from Ghana. My mother's Japanese. I grew up in London. So live in the US, live partly in Mexico. So, from everywhere and nowhere. And that was a gift and a blessing because I didn't feel like I didn't have the time to like identify with myself as one thing growing up, I didn't feel like I belonged, which was a whole nother sort of issue in and of itself. But as a young boy, I always, I felt people's pain very deeply. And there was always a psychic feeling of like wanting to alleviate people's suffering, which was very intense for me. And I didn't know how that would look. So as a young boy, people kind of felt like I had a bit of an unusual childhood. For me, it felt normal. I thought everyone had my childhood. In that, like my first memories as a kid was I remember being around age 7 and I'm seeing this crippled woman crawling on the floor and she picks up the sand, the gravel that this man walks on, wipes it on her face and stands up. Miracle. So week after week, I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear. And
time out. You're talking about seeing or seeing?
No. Seeing, like me and you sitting down seeing.
Got it.
I grew up seeing the same man whose sand she picked up. She would look at a woman in a wheelchair and say, "Why are you in this wheelchair? You're not sick. Stand up.
Right.
Why you have these? You're not sick, but I haven't walked in 10 years. I can't walk." He goes, "Do you believe? Stand up." So this man was my father.
Oh.
And so I grew up with my father built 300 churches in Ghana, West Africa. I had a huge church in London, about 5,000 people every Sunday at his height. But he was a very metaphysical man. He was a very spiritual, went to India in the 60s, had an enlightenment experience. So I was blessed to grow up with, he's an interesting character, but a being that was, some would say enlightened, some would say awakened, whatever it was, he had some knowledge, and I was around that. We never sat down and had conversations, but I grew up with the sense of possibility, that anything was possible, that this was the nature of life and reality.
Can I pause you for a moment?
Yeah.
What if you're out there watching it, this is why the work that we do is so important.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what you just said without knowing is like, I loved people so much that I felt people's hurt. That takes a certain level of connection to yourself, right? And that connection to yourself, again, you, with his imperfections, you chose your father.
Yes.
The same way you're without a question. The same way you chose your mother. But I just want you guys to watch and pay attention to this man saying essentially that at a young age, I had a gift. Right?
I didn't know I had a gift.
I didn't know I had a gift, but there was something going on inside of me where I could feel people and I could feel their suffering, and I wanted to help those people suffering. By the way, in a world where nowadays people watch people suffer and don't give a shit.
And get entertainment from it.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And here you are. And if you've ever wondered why it's so important for you to work on your heart, your soul, your healing, your awakening, it's this right here. It's that whoever he was, I'm just thinking of your mother and your father because of what you just like. My parents were not that conscious, but as a result, look at the gift that you had. So like, just look at how it all plays together. Yeah.
So, a bit of my childhood was, in a nutshell, it was this sense of possibility, and so age 8, I started speaking in my father's churches. That's how it all began. That was the beginning. I was thrown into the audience, and I had no idea. I was more interested in playing soccer in the lobby, and my father said, "Speak," and stuff started downloading and coming through from
Heck
where
yeah.
I'm not sure where from,
Heck yeah.
so I can't take credit for it. But
Right.
then I became obsessed with trying to understand life, and I would sneak into my father's office, and he had like 1,000 books on his bookshelf, Eastern mystics, Krishnamurti, Osho, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williams. So I began devouring these books as a kid, just trying to understand life and what is the purpose of life and who are we? And is the purpose of life just to wake up, make money, make babies and die? Like surely there has to be more.
Right.
And so when I was 14, I was ordained as a minister, and I was against my knowledge. I was basically given the mandate to take over my father's organization. And
at 14?
At 14, yeah. It was my father didn't speak to me about it. He just announced it one Sunday, and everyone was happy but me, because in that moment, I knew there was a deep knowing, and I think at the deepest part of us, there's a part of us that knows everything, because at the deepest level, we are everything. And so I couldn't explain it, but I just knew that this was not my path. I knew that this was not my destiny. My entire life was basically being scripted and planned out for me by my father, who is this amazing being, but something didn't feel right. And I think, like many of us, I was too afraid to speak my truth. My fear was, if I speak up, if I tell my father, this isn't right for me, then I would be outcast. I would lose his love. I'd be abandoned. We wouldn't have a relationship. And so for 4 years, I went along with it. I was the minister. I was like the guy who was going to like take it to the next level for the next generations.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of people in Africa were excited and, giving me respect.
You were the Messiah, bro.
I was the little Messiah,
Yeah.
But something didn't feel right.
Right.
And so for me, the shift happened when I was 18, when I went through 4 years of inner turmoil and inner conflict and inner questioning, like something's off. Something just doesn't feel right. And I tried to negotiate and fit myself, make myself be what I thought the world wanted me to be. But I had a choice to make. I looked into my future and I saw that I could be successful by the world standards, by my father's standards, by society standards. But if I don't have myself, if I don't have my truth, if I don't have my integrity,
what do you have?
What do I have? I have nothing. If I lie to myself now, I'm going to have to lie to myself for the rest of my life.
That's right.
And that self-betrayal was so painful. And then simultaneously, I felt a calling. I felt my soul calling me to come to America at 18. I was 17, but my soul was called because I wanted to go into the self-help field. I read all these books, Jack Canfield and Chopra, Marianne and Louise Hay. I'm like, there's a new way of doing shit.
Right.
I can actually help people without doing it through the church or religion. Right. And it was, my soul lit up. And so I felt like my soul just called me to Los Angeles. This was the mecca for where all these people were living. And sometimes I think what your soul guides you to do is not always convenient. What your soul guides you to do doesn't always make sense to your mind, isn't always comfortable, and I think many times we don't listen to the guidance of our soul because we're afraid of the consequences, and so I had to make a decision. So that's when I had the conversation with my father. Very difficult, very challenging, a lot of heartbreak,
What was that like?
It was terrifying. Sometimes people think that when you find your purpose or you find your guidance, like the whole universe opens up in synchronicity.
No. It's scary because something has to die. Something has to die.
That's when often you go through certain challenges and tests.
That's right.
And that's when often people, I think, stop because they think that they're on the wrong path, but they're really on the right path.
Right.
Because they go into the darkness. And many times we're afraid of the darkness and the unknowing because we can't see anything.
So we just step back.
We step back. But the darkness is a gift.
That's right.
Because for me, the darkness forces you to look inside.
I like him.
The darkness forces you to look inside to find, because when there's all light outside and it's shiny, you don't have to look inside.
You don't know.
But when there's darkness, it's like there's nowhere else to go but inside. And so I went into a period of darkness, and so for me it was really terrifying to confront the man that I respected and loved. I realized I have to kill my father. I'm going to have to break his heart in order to find my own truth.
Oof.
And
so powerful what you just said.
I had to grieve the death of who I thought I was. I had to surrender. That was the first moment of surrender. I had to I had to make peace with the fact I may never have a relationship with my father again. And that was a process of grieving, of years of grieving. But when I had the conversation, I remember the day I was shaking, man. I was terrified. And, 17 and a half year old, 18-year-old kid tiptoe up the stairs. And my father's old school, It's like my way.
I love even the way you said that. You're like old school. Like
old school African man.
Yeah.
From born in 1935. Like, it's my way or my way.
No, forget about it.
Right? Forget about it. And so I tell him, Dad, I love you, but I'm not taking over, and I asked for your blessing. He said nothing. All he said was, are you sure? I said, yes. We didn't speak for 2 years.
Wait, okay, well, hold on.
We didn't speak.
The conversation was, Dad, I love you, but I'm not taking over. He said, are you sure?
I said, yes.
And you said yes.
And he said, are you sure? Again. I said, yes. If I'm honest, it wasn't like yes. It was like,
yeah.
And I'm thinking, is this the biggest mistake of my life?
Right.
Even through that process, I was terrified.
That's right.
But I knew what I had. I really feel like if you listen to your soul will always guide you on the right path. Even though the route that you take may not be the one that you expect, but you will always end up in the right place with the right people at the right time, and it will make sense down the road. And so
and then he just didn't talk to you?
We didn't speak for 2 years.
For 2 years.
He left the country to Ghana, back and forth, and we just basically didn't speak. And long story short, I was in the darkness, right? And this is where I really know I had an experience at a young age of feeling like when you follow your soul, there is a deeper intelligence. To me, our dreams choose us. We think we choose our dreams, but they choose us because we are the perfect people, And so I said, basically, I was in a moment of confusion. I said, God, universe, whatever is out there, I've read 700 books on self-help. And if this shit works, if this stuff works, I need to know now. Because I have cut everything off. But I feel like I'm following the truth. And 3 days later, I'm in the library. Someone hands me a magazine called The Economist. And I feel chills, The universe gives you clues. I look in the back of the magazine. I'm like, why am I looking at this? American government's giving away 55,000 green cards in the green card lottery. DV1 green card lottery. I'm like, I didn't know there was such a thing. And so I enter it, feeling the sense like, I'm going to win this thing, So basically, this was April. I was told by September, you're going to get notified. If you're not notified by mid-September the 18th, move on. Every day, bro, I'm practicing my visualization. I'm doing my law of attraction. I'm coloring, making fake green cards to just visualize. I'm imagining the president of the US shaking my hand. I'm doing everything out of all the self-help books. Nothing. I go to the mailbox. Nothing. I'm losing hope. Nothing. The last day comes, September the 18th. Nothing. I tell my mother, my Japanese sweet mother, I tell her, I'm going to the US, packing my suitcases. It's illegal, but I'm going, and I'm not coming back. I'm that convinced that this is where I'm meant to be. And I basically gave up. That night, we get a phone call from the law firm that I applied through. My mother picks up. She hands me the phone. The guy says, is this Mr. Blackson? I said, yes. He says, this is the law firm from Washington that applied for you. You've won a green card. We just got notification today. And I'm jumping around, hugging my mom. And then I heard a voice. The voice says, why are you so surprised?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Why are you acting so surprised?
That's right.
You knew.
You knew. Yeah.
And so that gave me faith, don't compromise your soul. Cannot compromise your soul. Your soul has an intelligence. Your soul doesn't care about convenience and comfort. It cares about evolution. It cares about growth. And so I think that was a first moment of surrender for me.
I love that, man.
That was a bit of my childhood.
I love that. So beautiful. So beautiful. It's so, what's funny, man? I remember I was just telling Jen, my girlfriend, this the other day. I remember this must have been 10 years ago when I would write down, and this is for all of you who hear this and think, because I know what it feels like to, or I can imagine what it feels like to hear this story going like, wow, like I want to know like that. I want to tap into like my power to manifest like that. And I'll tell you something, it brings me back to like 10 years ago. I remember thinking to myself, like when I would write out the vision for my life, maybe not all the way till the end, but like the moments that I wanted to experience. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to meet wonderful people and we're going to, be able to hang out and have great friendships and so forth and so on. And all of these people are going to be like highly conscious. 10 years ago, they're going to be superstar athletes or, whatever the case may be, right? And as I sit here and have these conversations, I realize to myself, like, holy shit, like I manifested this. I manifested meeting wonderful, like-minded, like-hearted people. And, I would love your take on this, but, if you're out there and you're listening, like, how do I do this? Number one, you start by understanding that you're no different than anybody else. You are no different. You have been made to think that you are different. You have been made to feel less than because of the color of your skin or because of where you grew up or because of whatever absolute bullshit that was told to you. But you are no different than any other human being. As a matter of fact, you are the human being that you most likely look up to, cherish, value, and admire. And you are admiring that person because they are a reflection and a mirror for the parts of you that you have been afraid to tap into your entire life. So when you look up to someone, don't look up to them, look in them. Look in them and ask yourself, what about this person is calling me, is resonating with me so much that it's causing me to desire to be more of myself, right? And that's where you first got to begin. And then the second part that you have to begin is you just have to write. You just have to sit down and write and sit down with yourself. Turn off the freaking TV, get off the cell phone. It's literally like taking you into a warp that you can't get out of, and grab a pen and a piece of paper like we used to do in the old days and sit down and write the words, what I want my life to look like is, and write. And write with conviction, and write with passion, and write with a sense of knowing, and write from a place of not, I hope it becomes this, write from a place of knowing what I write becomes, period, end the story, there is no other way. And maybe you've never felt that, but I want to give you the freedom to feel that because that truly is how it happens. Would you?
So I'm gonna piggyback on that.
And, do it.
Come from a few
from different angles.
Different angles. So the first thing I would maybe add is I think one of the things that stop, and this is just a simple thing that people can do, but not always easy. I think one of the things that stops us from truly breaking through or manifesting at that next level are all the ways that we lie to ourselves. I think in so many ways we have been conditioned, often unconsciously from childhood, to lie to ourselves about who we are, about what we want, about what we feel, from, I'm going to pretend to be someone that I'm not to get love, validation, approval. And so, if you want to truly manifest authentically, because many times we manifest certain things, but what we end up manifesting is a version of not what we really want, is what we think we want based on who we think we are.
Based off of what we told we need.
Yes, and who we think we are based on our conditioning, right?
Right, that's right.
And so I think if we're willing to just start with the truth, I think that is a profound foundation from which to break through, break free, transform, and manifest. Like, what lies am I telling myself? We stay in relationships that we know are not right.
That's right, man.
We because of what people think, because we've invested so much, because of society, because of this, because of that. And we wonder, like, why, And then we're in a relationship that we know isn't aligned, and we're praying to the universe, like, please bring me my soulmate. But there's no space.
There's no space.
There's no space because you're holding on to what's no longer working. And so I would just say, start with the truth. The truth will set you free. For me, truth is real yoga. Truth is real meditation. Truth is real prayer. Truth is real spiritual practice. What lies am I telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? Because sometimes we're afraid, like I was, we're afraid of the consequences of what will happen if I tell the truth. Oh, shit, it's what's going to happen to my relationship? What's going to happen to my job? How will I survive? Will I get love, validation, approval from people? And so I would just say, and then the ego plays kind of games of like, I don't know, I'm confused, I'm not sure. We know. Deep down, we know. So own the knowing, start telling the truth, take the pressure off of yourself from having to even take any action, and just get into relationship with the truth. because that will bring up certain feelings inside. You can't change something if you're lying about it, you know? And I think the other thing is be willing to acknowledge the pain and the cost of the lie that you're telling yourself. Because when you lie to yourself, it's meant to be painful. It's not meant to feel good. You know, to me, the fact that you're feeling pain or someone's feeling pain is that pain is a feedback mechanism that we're not totally aligned. And so I think if we can just begin by telling ourselves the truth, like, I hate my job, instead of like even doing a spiritual bypass of, let me be grateful for the job I hate that I know is, you know, lacking my integrity. You know, I said, don't use gratitude as a spiritual bypass. I hate my job. No judgment. You don't have to leave. I'm not in love with this person anymore. Feel the feelings that brings up, and maybe grief, but that will begin a process inside so that you can start actually getting clearer, you know, and that's a starting point. The truth. To me, the truth, there's no transformation without truth.
Hey, thanks for watching this week's episode of The Higher Self. The reality is if you're watching this show, it's because you are searching for more, and you know deep within your heart and soul that there is more potential from your life. Maybe you desire true financial abundance and freedom. Maybe you desire to heal the fragmented parts of you. Or maybe you desire to attract the relationship of your dreams and be in a relationship with passion and true love. Whatever the case may be, that is what we specialize in. We specialize in helping you and guiding you to healing the fragmented parts of your life that have created these stories in your mind that keep you from living the life of your dreams. If you want to find out how we can guide you in that process, my mastermind Inner Circle does just that. It's a group of like-minded individuals that is wanting the absolute best out of life and will not settle for anything less. We get together 4 times a year in person and twice a month online. If you're in a place in your life where you're ready to discover your truest potential, then Inner Circle is for you. Message us the word Inner Circle right now on Instagram or Facebook at Danny Morel. Our team will message you back and begin to share with you the details about what it would take for you to join our Inner Circle. Message us the words Inner Circle right now.
The other thing is, I think in my observation and my own experience, there's an old paradigm of manifestation. To me, and this is why I wrote the Surrender book, the old paradigm of manifestation being, know what you want, get clear on what you want. I think we can manifest that way, but there's limitations if we're not in touch with who we are authentically, who we truly authentically are. And so what I invite people to ask is a question that is, let's say, an expanded question. Get clear, as clear as you can be. But I also say, ask a question of, like, what is it that life is seeking to manifest through me? What is it that my soul is seeking to manifest? What is the deepest impulse, the deeper impulse of what God, the divine, the universe, my soul, life, whatever we want to call it, is seeking to express through me? Because many times what we think we want is not what we really want. It's just what we think we want based on who we think we are. But I think if we can truly, what I found is, I think the most powerful manifestation, I hate to say technique, is surrender. Because when we truly say, universe, I surrender to okay, this is what I feel I want in this moment, and I'm going to work towards it. But I think when we can say, okay, what is the universe seeking to express through me? What is life seeking to express through me? And open fully to that, align fully with that. Like for me, it wasn't the book I thought it was going to be. I thought it should be another book. And so when we can truly open and align and feel and sense and intuit and kind of catch the authentic vision that now is arising from an unconditioned, dimension of our being, then we can bring our personality and ego and mind and skills and strategy and marketing in alignment with what's true. Then we can go into action. Then we can start planning and goal setting and what have you around what's real. Now I think we're working in flow, because there's many things in my life that I thought I really wanted. Like I look back, maybe everyone can relate to this, but think of that relationship with that person, right? That you thought was the one. You thought you were going to be with forever. You couldn't imagine not being with them. And it didn't work out. And now, 2023, you look back and go, what the hell was I thinking? Like, I thought I really wanted that. And so sometimes what we think we want is when we create from the level of the conditioned mind, the manifestation will be limited and conditioned because the mind itself is conditioned by past experience. But when we surrender and we open to the soul, when we surrender and we open to the highest good, you see, when we're locked in ego sort of reality and identified with our egos, we're not able to see the total possibilities of what life is seeking to express, what life is seeking to unfold. The person that we think we should be with versus, the person that is actually highest for my soul's journey in this lifetime.
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
It's so interesting, but I had a story that the woman that I would be with would be from Colombia.
Oh, there you go. I have my own story. So.
I want to hear it. And I had this story because I had this vision that the woman would have light brown hair, like fair complected, and yeah. And so the paradigm that I was living in was that, I only dated Hispanic women.
And they're beautiful. I understand.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And so I remember I would go to Colombia and I'd sit there waiting for like, where's she? Where's the woman? And then, the reality was that all along in my journey, I had been friends with this woman who my heart knew I wanted, but she wasn't from Colombia, but she was absolutely everything that I wanted in a woman. And you know what happened? You're going to get a kick out of this. One day we're talking as friends. And I have, for my first time in my journey, psychic downloads to where I start speaking to her psychically. Like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is, and she's like, and we both go through this moment where we stop breathing. We were so in unison, our hearts were so aligned that we didn't breathe for 2 minutes. And then she says, I don't think I was breathing for a while. And I said, holy shit, neither was I. Like, what is that? And in that moment I thought, wait, but you're not from Colombia though. That's how deep, yes. That's how deep my story was.
Bro.
That's the ego. Yes. That's how deep my story was, right? So check this out. So then I go, okay, well, if you're her, send me the word yeah, or send me the word yes right now. I didn't ask her a question. I didn't add anything. Just send me the word yes out of the blue. Sure enough, she texts me, yeah. Yeah, I was feeling this certain way or whatever. And I'm like, what in the world? And then in that moment, I thought, wait, but this can't be because you're not from Colombia. And I swear, this, clear as day, I heard Source ask me, you mean to tell me you're not going to be with her just because she's not from a certain part of the world? That doesn't make any sense, does it? And right there, the whole paradigm just fell apart. And that was my story. That's what I thought I wanted, and now we're together, and it's
that's surrender. For me, I tell people, don't let your ideal scene, which is often a creation from ego and identity, get in the way of what is seeking to happen. Don't let your ideal scene, because sometimes we have all of these lists, 17 lists, but many times our goals are projections of unmet needs from childhood. Goals are projections from our conditioned little selves.
That's right.
And so I think when we can truly surrender, like if I could just touch on surrender, but if we can truly surrender, like we have this idea that, if I surrender, like surrender is weak. Like surrender is passive. Like surrender is giving up. Like if I surrender, I'm not going to have that woman from Colombia. If I surrender, I'm not going to manifest my goals, dreams, and desires. If I surrender, I'm going to get less. For me, it's like, well, what if you surrendered and you got more? Like more than you could have imagined. And so for me, manifestation is really about surrender. And I think when we surrender truly, we take the limitations off of life. We take the limitations off of ourselves. Then we truly open to the highest possibility, and the ego is not able to see the highest possibility. It thinks based on its conditioning, it knows how it should be, and we only see a small sliver of the pie.
That's it.
And I think if you look at any truly great person. You know, for those that think, oh, surrendering is weak, Jesus,
That's
Buddha,
right.
Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Bob Marley, you know, Mandela,
Bob Marley.
Bruce Lee,
Bruce Lee,
Muhammad Ali. Like, at some point, I'm sure that their lives didn't necessarily turn out based on the script that they wrote. Imagine Mandela saying, yeah, I'm going to go 27 years in prison. That would be a great, then I'm going to come out of prison. Like, that probably wasn't in his script.
Right.
But there was a deeper intelligence unfolding. And so I think at some point, they all had to surrender themselves to that bigger purpose, to life. And that's when life moved through them. Life in its infinite intelligence manifested through them, you know,
through
and
them.
as them. And that's
right.
when the magic happens. And I think if we look at the best things that happen in our life, you meeting your woman, you know, me meeting my wife, the best things that have happened to us, a lot of it we didn't plan. It just sort of happened in the process of living life itself.
Yeah, man.
You know? And so, like, I woke up one day, I was in Egypt. I haven't really shared this story publicly, but
Share it.
This is a first.
Let's get it.
I was in Egypt teaching for 8 days with some of my high-level graduates, and a voice, intuition, simply said, go to Brazil. The hell, I've been there. Well, I have no reason. This is the middle of pandemic, 2021. No reason to go to Brazil. Go to Brazil. Okay, I'm gonna practice my own book. Let me go to Brazil. So I was living in Miami for the year. No idea why I was living in Miami, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I arrived back into Miami on a Tuesday morning. My flight is to Rio on a Tuesday night. I'm exhausted. I'm like, let me cancel. Go to Brazil. The only reason I actually followed through is I had an Airbnb booked, non-refundable, right? And so I go to Brazil, no idea why I'm going. I show up, no idea why I'm there, sitting around in my room, like I might as well just work from here. I mean, long story short, ended up meeting my wife in Brazil randomly.
Wow.
In the most random sort of ordinary way that I didn't expect to meet. Prior to that, I was in a relationship with a woman for, a few months that I thought was going to be the one. She fit all of my sort of ego's idea of how I thought I would meet someone, cosmic, from the stars, from the universe. My mother blessed it, and it so wasn't. And I think it just goes to show many times what we think isn't, and sometimes what we think isn't is.
Yeah.
And so in surrender and manifestation, I think for me, I've been so humbled because I realized, shit, I don't know anything. And the deeper I go, I realize I don't know anything. And so more and more in terms of manifestation, I've just started saying, Danny, I'm open to the highest good unfolding, the highest good, because in that intention, there is no limits. Okay, this would be nice and this would be great, but let the highest good unfold. And so when I met my wife, I'm like, okay, this isn't her, but I'll go on a date with her. But because I'm in Brazil, but this is not her.
No way.
No way. She didn't fit the prototype, nothing.
Right.
And then after like the second date, I was like, something about her frequency, something about the feminine essence of the vibratory energy of her femininity. It was like inspiring. I'm like, but it doesn't fit my mind's projection of what I thought she was going to be and how I thought she was going to look. And long story short, we got married.
Beautiful.
And
how long after?
6 months.
Because once you know, you know.
Yeah. What else are we waiting for? And every day has been a continued revelation of the perfection of her complementariness for who I am.
For who you
I'm
are.
like, she is more than I could have imagined. And that's why I say, if you want to manifest, surrender. Because you may not get what you thought you wanted, but what if it was more? What if it was better? What if it was beyond?
Right.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Yeah. I love that. How do people find out more about you?
Wow. The book, Magic of Surrender.
Yeah. By the way, guys, I feel called. I rarely do this, but I feel called to really have all of you like pick up this book. And can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
You know this about me. when I get sent books, like to look at or to read or to, whatever,
Yeah.
I normally don't. And I don't because it's like, what are they coming on the show for? And I really love authenticity. You know what I'm saying? So I, in my ego, judge it. I judge it. I'm realizing that is what I do. That is not something that the person is doing. That's something that I'm trying to protect myself from, I guess what I'm trying to say, guys, is that like I happily will tell you, I'm going to read this book. I want you to read this book because I know who you are. You know what I'm saying? I know who you are, and I feel your power, and I feel that like, the world is going to know about you, and if it doesn't already, we're going to help you because I love your message, man. I really do. So the magic of surrender.
So the book, my website, Kute Blackson,
and that's Kute
Blackson, BLACKSON. I do a very special event twice a year in Bali, boundlessblissbali.com.
Beautiful.
And Instagram, Kute Blackson, Facebook, Kute Love Now.
I like that. I think I want to come to Bali.
Anytime. Buddy.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Thanks for being here. And thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Higher Self. Truly, I think this was, I feel like I keep saying this, but this truly was one of my favorite episodes. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you play this one back, a couple of times because we covered some stuff that'll truly help you unlock your highest potential. And more than anything, I hope to see you next week on The Higher Self. Thanks for watching this week's episode of The Higher Self. If you heard something in this week's episode that caused you to think maybe, just maybe, there was a higher potential for your life, maybe there was a potential to earn and receive financial freedom, to attract the relationship of your dreams, or to improve your health, that's what we specialize in. We help wonderful human beings like yourself to unravel all of the limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you've been living through so that you can finally tap into your life's truest potential. If you'd like to talk more about that, we invite you to join us on Instagram or Facebook and email us the word discover more. And when my team sees that, they will reach out to you, send you the details of how we could help you on your pathway to a life of abundance, fulfillment, and creating the absolute life of your dreams. Message us right now the words discover more now on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll see you soon.